Senate will come to order. Senate will come to order. Leading us in prayer today is the Reverend Anthony Purcell, who is the campus pastor at Dakota Wesleyan University in Mitchell. Not sure why he's here today. Following the prayer, the Pledge of Allegiance will be led by our Senate page of the day, Rachel Stephenson of Arlington High School.
Let us pray, friends. O holy God, creator, savior, and sustainer of all life and of this beautiful world, we gather together today, God, and pray that you will pour out your Spirit on this place and on this people. God, we ask that you lead these men and women with your wisdom, God. And as they work, step into the work of being the voice and the vote of the people of this beautiful state that they represent, God. We pray that you will tie them together and unite their hearts in their common vocation, a vocation of sacrifice and service. Lead them in this work, God, to produce your fruits, the fruits of righteousness, justice, and equity for every citizen and human who lives on the beautiful land of South Dakota. We pray, God, that you might work with, in, and through them so that they might be a part of leading each and every one of our communities towards making your kingdom real here on earth, just as it is in heaven. In your Son's holy name we pray. Amen.
Amen. The Secretary will call the roll.
Senators Beal, Blanc, Carly, Crabtree, Davis, Dybert, Duhamel, Foster, Grove, Hone, Howard, Hulse, Jensen, Carr, Colbeck, Lapke, Larson, Marty, Melhoff, Miskimmons, Nelson, Otten, Perry, Peterson, Pischke, Reed, Rolls, Souter, Shanefish, Smith, Vilhauer, Voigt, Voida, Wipf, and Zickman. Mr. President, we have a quorum.
Members of the Senate, I want to introduce our gavel hitter here. This is, step forward. This is Sophia Carly, daughter of Senator Carly. She hit the gavel the hardest that anyone's hit it this year. This block jumped probably 6 inches in the air. Very impressive. Good work. Let's give her a round of applause. Approval of the journal.
Mr. President, the Committee on Legislative Procedure reports that the Secretary of the Senate has had under consideration the Senate Journal of the 23rd day. All errors, typographical or otherwise, are duly marked in the temporary journal for correction, and we hereby move adoption of the report. Submitted, Chris Carr, Chair.
Is there a second? Approval of the journal has been moved and seconded. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, nay. That carries. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to introduce is the doctor of the day here? Yes, there you are. I'm going to introduce the doctor of the day at this time. Dr. Dan Heineman is a past president, stand up, is a past president of the South Dakota Medical Association and the South Dakota Academy of Family Physicians. He retired in 2020 from the role of Vice President and Medical Officer with Sanford Health Network. He currently serves as Medical Director for 2 long-term care facilities and teaches at the Sanford School of Medicine. Prior to accepting his administrative role with Sanford, Dr. Heineman practiced family medicine in Canton for more than 20 years. He received his medical degree from the USD School of Medicine and completed a Sioux Falls family practice residency in 1984. Dr. Heineman has been an active member of the State Medical Association, the South Dakota Academy of Family Physicians, and is a member of the American Medical Association. So let's welcome Dr. Heineman. Thanks for helping us. Senator Miskimmons. That's not a prop, is it? Not a prop, okay.
No, it's just Governor Tyler Mitchell.
No.
Today it's Mitchell Day at the legislature. Pardon me. It's Mitchell Day here at the legislature, and we're proud to have Mitchell represented. The entire community is represented here today. We have the Mitchell Chamber of Commerce, the Mitchell Development Corporation, Dakota Wesleyan University, Mitchell Technical College, Leadership Mitchell, Mitchell High School, Mitchell Christian School, the county commissioners, and Owen, thank you for representing Mitchell Christian here on the floor today. So welcome Mitchell on Mitchell Day to the Capitol.
Welcome, stand up.
Please stand.
Senator Miskimmons.
Thank you, Mr. President. Today we have a special proclamation that I'd like to read, and together we'll all honor this individual. Whereas Roger Music, a lifelong resident of Mitchell, South Dakota, entrepreneur, philanthropist, graduate of Mitchell High School, has demonstrated extraordinary commitment in strengthening education, workforce development, and community vitality across the state of South Dakota. And whereas Roger and Vicki Music have made a historic philanthropic investment totaling approximately $33 million to benefit Mitchell Public Schools and Dakota Wesleyan University, establishing transformative endowments designed to elevate educational opportunity and excellence. And whereas these endowments will provide sustainable, long-term funding to support teacher development, student scholarships, early learning initiatives, after-school programming, academic entitlement, and innovative partnerships between K-12 education and higher education. And whereas the music family's generosity reflects a deep belief that great education and strong schools are essential to building a thriving communities, strengthening workforce readiness, and ensuring a prosperous future for South Dakota families. And whereas this landmark gift represents one of the most significant philanthropic investments in education in South Dakota history and serves as an inspiring example of civic leadership and community stewardship, and whereas Mitchell Day at the legislature provides an opportunity to recognize individuals where vision and generosity have advanced the city of Mitchell and the state of South Dakota. Now, therefore, I, Larry Roden, Governor of the state of South Dakota, do hereby proclaim February 19th, 2026 as Roger Music Day in South Dakota. Please join me in recognizing the music family.
Please stand up.
Mr. President.
Senator Perry.
Thank you, Mr. President. Point of personal privilege.
Granted.
Thank you. Today is Aberdeen Day. On behalf of Senator Roll, on behalf of Senator Lapka and myself, please welcome the leaders of Aberdeen, Leadership Aberdeen class and the Aberdeen Area Chamber of Commerce. They're up in the top there. Thank you for coming. Let's give them a warm welcome.
You're in blue. Senator Carley. Granted.
Thank you, Mr. President. Just want to say thank you, my in-laws from Denmark that came from Denmark but have now become citizens, and my wife and two of my kids, and especially the one with the arm today. I just want to introduce them in the gallery, so thank you for attending and allowing me to be here.
Stand up. Reports of standing committees.
Mr. President, the Committee on Senate Taxation reports that it has had the following under consideration and returns with the following recommendations. Senate Bill 96 do pass. Senate Bills 144 and 241 were deferred to the 41st legislative day. Submitted, Sue Peterson, Chair. Also, Mr. President, the Committee on Senate Agriculture and Natural Resources reports it has had the following under consideration and returns with the following recommendations. Senate Bill 124 be amended and do pass. House Bill 1111 do pass and having been certified as uncontested be placed on the consent calendar. Submitted, Tom Pischke, Chair. The Committee on Senate Judiciary reports it has had the following under consideration and returns with the following recommendations. Senate Bill 159 be amended and do pass. House Bills 1013, 1014, and 1022 do pass and having been certified uncontested be placed on the consent calendar. House Bills 1012 and 1062 do pass. Submitted, Steve Kolbeck, Chair. Also, Mr. President, the Committee on Senate Education reports it has had the following under consideration and returns the following recommendations. Senate Bill 213 be referred to the Joint Committee on Appropriations with a do pass recommendation. Senate Bill 229 be amended and do pass. Submitted, Kyle Shanefish, Chair. The Committee on Senate State Affairs reports it has had the following under consideration and returns with the following recommendations. Senate Bill 232 was tabled. Senate Bills 234 and 235 were deferred to the 41st legislative day. Senate Bill 239 be amended and do pass. Submitted, Jim Melhoff, Chair. Also, Mr. President, the Committee on Senate Commerce and Energy reports it has had the following under consideration and returns the same with the following recommendations. Senate Bill 6, which was recalled, which was tabled. Senate Bill 76 and 204 be amended and do pass. Senate Bill 193 do pass. Senate Bill 226 was deferred to the 41st legislative day. Submitted, Casey Crabtree, Chair. And finally, the Committee on Legislative Procedure reports that Senate Bills 63, 67, 68, and 117 were delivered to His Excellency the Governor for his approval at 1:20 p.m. February 19th, 2026. Submitted, Chris Carr, Chair.
Messages.
Mr. President, I have the honor to inform you that Senate Joint Resolution 503 was lost for failure to be placed on the House calendar. House Bills 1041, 1108, 1162, 1253, and 1286 were passed by the House, and your favorable consideration is requested. And finally, I have the honor to transmit House Concurrent Resolution 6015, which has been adopted by the House, and your concurrence is requested. Respectfully, Patricia Miller, Chief Clerk.
Motions and resolutions.
Senator Melhoff moves that when we adjourn today, we adjourn to convene at 1 p.m. on Friday, February 20th, 2026, the 25th legislative day.
That has been moved and seconded. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, those in favor say aye. Those opposed, nay. Carries.
Senator Carr moves that Senate Bill 135 be deferred to Friday, February 20th, 2026, the 25th legislative day.
That's been moved and seconded. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, nay. That motion carries.
Senator Carr moves that Senate Bill 126 be referred from the Committee on Senate Appropriations to the Senate floor.
That has been moved and seconded. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, nay. That carries.
First reading of HCR 6015, encouraging the Executive Board of the Legislative Research Council to form an interim legislative committee to study the role and function of county boards of mental illness.
HER 6015 has not been assigned at this time.
HCR 6011, a concurrent resolution encouraging the Executive Board of the Legislative Research Council to form an interim neuro health safety committee to study and assess the regulatory framework under which vapor product retail establishments operate. Senator Voida moves that the Senate do concur in HCR 6011 as found on page 295 of the Senate Journal.
It's been moved by Senator Voida and seconded that the Senate do concur in HCR 6011. Are there any remarks? Senator Voida.
Well, as you all can see, House Concurrent Resolution 6011 is encouraging the Executive Board of the Legislative Research Council to form an interim neurohealth safety committee to study and assess the regulatory framework under which vapor product retail establishments operate. The drafter of this bill's original intent, I believe, is to just bring all of the stakeholders together to try and see throughout the state what is going to work best and to not end up with a mess like some other regulatory frameworks we have found. So I guess your favorable consideration would be appreciated. Thank you.
Very good. Further remarks on HCR 6011? Seeing no further remarks, the question before the Senate is Senator Voida's motion that HCR 6011 be concurred in. This is a roll call vote. When your name is called, those in favor vote aye, those opposed nay. The Secretary will call the roll.
Senators Beal excused, Blanc, Carley, Crabtree, Davis, Dibert, Duhamel, Foster, Grove, Hone, Howard, Hulse, Jensen, Carr, Colbeck, Lapke, Larson, Marty, Melhoff, Ms. Gimmons, Nelson, Otten, Perry, Peterson, Fischke, Reed, Roll, Souter, Shanefish, Smith, Vilhauer, Voigt? Voida? Whip? Sickman? Mr. President, we have 5 yeas, 29 nays.
So that motion having failed to receive an affirmative vote of a majority of the members elect, the president declares the motion lost. Senator Milhoff,
Thank you, Mr. President. May I have a personal privilege?
that is granted.
Thank you very much. Up in the gallery today, although she wasn't in when the Aberdeen folks were introduced, she is part of that group. It's my niece, the woman who keeps my nephew out of the pokey, keeps him entertained and happy. Amber Schwab, if you'd stand up and give a wave to the Senate. Welcome.
Welcome. Consideration of committee reports.
Senator Milhoff moves that the reports of the Standing Committee on Health and Human Services on Senate Bill 87, the Committee on Transportation on Senate Bill 219, the Committee on Local Government on Senate Bills 236 and 237, and the Committee on State Affairs on Senate Bills 110 and 175, all of the on the Senate Journal be adopted.
That has been moved and seconded. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, nay. That carries.
Motion, Senator Carley moves that Senate Bill 175 be placed to follow Senate Bill 218 on today's calendar pursuant to JR 6F-6.
Senator Carley has moved that Senate Bill 175 be placed on today's calendar pursuant to Joint Rule 6F-6, following Senate Bill 218. Is there a second? All right, that has been moved and seconded. Any discussion on that motion? Senator Carley.
Thank you, Mr. President. Yeah, SB 175, just the title that says require an individual provide proof of citizenship when registering to vote and to declare an emergency. It asks that we put it on the calendar and to discuss that, and also I'd like to do that so we can get an amendment from the SOS on there. So thank you.
Thank you for the remarks on that motion. All right, again, so we're clear, this was subject to a smokeout the other day. This is the motion to calendar. Seeing no further remarks, the question before the Senate is Senator Carley's motion to calendar Senate Bill 105. This is a roll call vote. When your name is called, 175, excuse me. This is a roll call vote. When your name is called, those in favor vote aye, those opposed nay. The Secretary will call the roll.
Senators Beal excused, Blanc, Carley, Crabtree, Davis, Dibert, Duhamel, Foster, Grove, Hone, Howard, Hulse, Jensen, Carr, Colbeck, Lapke, Larson, Marty, Melhoff, Miskimmons, Nelson, Otten, Perry, Peterson, Pischke, Reed, Roll, Souter, Shanefish, Smith, Vilhauer, Voigt, Voida, Whip, Sickman. Mr. President, we have 28 yeas, 6 nays, 1 excused.
So that motion having received an affirmative vote of a majority of the members elect, the President declares the motion carried. And Senate Bill 175 will follow Senate Bill 218 on today's calendar. Senator Perry?
Thank you, Mr. President. You know, every now and then you have the lucky opportunity to introduce people that are phenomenal, and they've done great things. And up in the left-hand corner, we have Miss Aberdeen and an entourage of people, and they're from the Aberdeen area, and we should give them a round of applause from Senator Roll, Senator Lapka, and Senator Perry. Thank you.
Welcome.
Senator Roll moves that Senate Bill 110 be placed on the calendar Friday, February 20th, the 25th legislative day.
It has been moved by Senator Roll and seconded to place Senate Bill 110 on the calendar for tomorrow, February 20, the 25th day. Any remarks? Senator Roll.
Thank you, Mr. President. Well, I'd ask the body to support the motion. This particular bill went through committee. It had a tie vote. There was one member missing. That member has indicated that he would have likely supported the bill, and I think it's a conversation that the majority of South Dakota would like us to at least have. So I'd ask for your favorable consideration.
Thank you for the remarks on the motion. All right, seeing none, this again is a bill that was smoked out the other day, and now this is the motion to calendar. That is a roll call vote. When your name is called, those in favor vote aye, those opposed nay. The secretary will call the roll.
Senators Beal, excused, Blanc, Carly, Crabtree, Davis, Dibert, Duhamel, Foster, Grove, Hone, Howard, Hulse, Jensen, Carr, Kolbeck, Lapke, Larson, Marty, Melhoff, Miskimmons, Nelson, Otten, Perry, Peterson, Pischke, Reed, Roll, Souter, Shanefish, Smith, Vilhauer, Voigt, Voida, Whip, Zickman. Mr. President, we have 29 yeas, 9 nays, 1 excused.
There's 25 ayes, 9 nays, 1 excused. So that motion having received an affirmative vote of the majority of the members elect, the President declares the motion carried. And that bill will be placed on the calendar for tomorrow. First reading of House bills.
House Bill 1041, authorize the expansion and renovation of the Sturgis Readiness Center, to make an appropriation therefore, and to declare an emergency. House Bill 1108, require the sealing of court files upon dismissal or denial of a petition for a protection order. House Bill 1162 adds certain substances to Schedule 1 of the Controlled Substance Schedule. House Bill 1253 adjusts the assessment and methodology for owner-occupied single-family dwellings and non-agricultural property by considering previous year's assessed values. And House Bill 1286, amend the process by which monies are distributed from the employer's investment in South Dakota's Future Fund.
These bills have been unassigned at this time. second reading of Senate bills.
Senate Bill 150, as a reminder, an act to exempt one motor vehicle of a debtor from being taken by legal process.
Senate Bill 150, having had its second reading, is up for consideration and final passage. Are there any remarks? Senator Larson.
Thank you, Mr. President. I'm rising today to ask for your favorable consideration for Senate Bill 150, which is actually an act to increase the amount of debtors' personal property exemption. I'll be brief since everybody's heard this before. The bill now updates a personal property exemption by adding $5,000 to reflect the cost of living increases which have happened over the last 12 years since the last time this code was updated. The purpose of this bill is straightforward: to allow working people who own a vehicle outright to protect up to $5,000 in equity if they choose to file for bankruptcy. That protection helps people stay employed, stay off public assistance while they rebuild. A modest, reliable vehicle is often the difference between a struggling but paying debtor and a non-paying debtor. Becoming a non-paying debtor helps no one. The issue was brought to me by a constituent who was one of the few bankruptcy attorneys in South Dakota. She and her colleagues observed that our exemption laws no longer reflect the economic reality. In practice, bankruptcy itself was forcing people out of the workplace simply by taking away their car. South Dakota is one of only 6 states without a meaningful motor vehicle exemption. So Senate Bill 150 does not remove accountability from debtors. Rather, it makes accountability possible. It doesn't forgive debt. It doesn't create a new regulatory scheme or process. It does not affect insurance. It does not stop wage garnishment or other lawful collections. It doesn't undermine secured lenders or their collateral. It doesn't protect luxury vehicles. It's not a giveaway. It is a modest, practical update to an outdated law. Just over 600 people file for bankruptcy in South Dakota each year. The vast majority have no meaningful equity and would not even benefit from this exemption. Those who are the small handful of working people with modest vehicles that are owned outright who are trying to stay employed and rebuild. Bankruptcy is a last resort. It is stressful, costly, and it's deeply consequential for families. People typically arrive there from compound shocks: illness, job loss, divorce, unanticipated medical expenses, death or caregiving responsibilities. More often than not, more than one of these things happen at the same time. Without bootstraps, you can't pull yourself up by them. This bill simply ensures that a bootstrap is there, at least for some people. Senate Bill 150 is designed to help South Dakotans experiencing confound financial trauma stay working, avoid public assistance, and align our laws with today's cost of living and the reality that vehicles are lifelines for working families. For these reasons, I respectfully ask that you vote for your yes vote on Senate Bill 150.
Thank you. Further remarks on Senate Bill 150? Further remarks? Seeing no further remarks, the question before the Senate is final passage of Senate Bill 150. When your name is called, those in favor vote aye, those opposed nay. The Secretary will call the roll.
Senators Beal, excused. Blanc? No. Carly? No. Crabtree? Davis? No. Dibert? Aye. Duhamel? Aye. Foster? Aye. Grove? Hone? Howard? Hulse? Jensen? Carr? Colbeck? Yes. Lapke? Larson? Marty? Melhoff? Miss Skimmons? Nelson? Otten? Perry? Peterson? Pischke? Reed? Roll? Souter? Shane Fish. Smith. Vilhauer. Voigt. Voida. Whip. Sickmund. Hone. Mr. President, we have 15 yeas, 19 nays, one excused.
So Senate Bill 150 having failed to receive an affirmative vote of a majority of the members elect, the President declares the bill lost.
Senate Bill 208, an act to require the award of certain disbursements to prevailing owners and taxpayers in appeals of property classifications or assessments.
Senate Bill 208, having had its second reading, is up for consideration and final passage. Are there any remarks?
Mr. President.
Senator Hulse.
Thank you, Mr. President. Senate Bill 208 came about because I realized that in South Dakota, if you figure that your property tax assessment or a classification of your property is incorrect, and you go through all the steps to appeal at the county level and then through the next step, and you want to appeal to circuit court, in this day and age, it's almost not worth doing that anymore because the amount that you'll save in property taxes is actually probably less than what you would pay in attorney's fees. And so when I looked up the statute about attorney's fees, I found out that the county can get their attorney's fees awarded to them if you lost in your appeal, but that the taxpayers weren't on an equal footing with the county in those instances. And so this bill would make it so that if the county wins, that they get their awards distributed to them, just like before. But then if the taxpayer prevails and their classification is changed or their assessment changes by more than 20 or at least 20%, that the court must award attorney's fees to the taxpayer. Now, if you get an assessment change of less than 20%, and this would be very common for people, especially that have more expensive homes, because 20% of your evaluation is a pretty big number. If you get less than 20%, the court may award attorney's fees to you. So it's still a risk for those people who think that their assessment value is not that different, but that's the compromise that was that came to in this bill. And then lastly, I know there's a little bit of consternation about Section 3 of the bill, so I'll speak to that just a little bit. There was a concern that there are instances where the county may be incorrect in their assessment value of your property because they're unable to access the property. And so we wanted to clarify that you cannot have the fees awarded to you if the county was not able to properly access your property to figure those numbers. I think that that's fair. If you're the one prohibiting them from getting it right, that you shouldn't have fees awarded to you. People can't just come onto your property without your permission. They also can't enter your home without your permission. And so that doesn't change any of the laws when it comes to trespass or anything else with the standards of how and when people can assess your property. All it says is if you're the reason why they weren't able to measure your home because you have a locked gate, or maybe some people were exercising their Second Amendment rights and saying, get off my land, and they weren't able to measure your barn or something like that, that the lawyers for the counties can say, hey, that's why we weren't correct on this one, and you don't get your fees because of that. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you. Further remarks on Senate Bill 208? Senator Roll. State your question.
I was just seeing if it was their intention to move the amendment or not.
Thank you. Yes, I'm sorry. I got so caught up in my explanation that I would love to move Amendment 208D, please.
You are moving Amendment 208B.
D is in dog.
I think she moved it in her answer. That's how I heard it. Is there a second? Been moved by Senator Hulse and seconded 208D. Senator Hulse, do you have anything you'd like to say on the amendment at this time?
Nope, I just said all of it. Thank you, Mr. President.
All right, this is a voice vote. Those in favor say aye.
Mr. President?
I'm sorry, there are further remarks on the amendment. Excuse me.
Thank you.
Senator Peterson.
I do have remarks on the amendment. Thank you. Well, I really appreciate what the good senator and my good seatmate is attempting to do here. I'm the one who raised the concerns about Section 3, which is what's in it's new in the Amendment D. And my concern is what what is the meaning? What is the definition of the word hinder? So I just think that that has been probably stretched, to put it very kindly. I've seen it in my county where it's been abused. And so I liked the bill prior to this amendment. I have concerns about adding Section 3. So I will be opposing the amendment, but I would love to support the bill without the amendment. Thank you.
Thank you. Further remarks on the Hulse motion to amend? Further remarks on the motion to amend? All right, this is a voice vote. Roll call has been requested. Is she supported? Stand if you support. She is supported. All right, this is the motion before the Senate is Senator Hulse's motion to amend Senate Bill 208 with 208D. This is a roll call vote. When your name is called, those in favor vote aye, those opposed, nay. The Secretary will call the roll.
Senators Beal excused, Blanc, Carly, Crabtree, Davis, Dybert, Duhamel, Foster, Grove, Hone, Howard, Hulse, Jensen, Carr, Colbeck, Lapke, Larson, Marty, Melhoff, Ms. Skimmons, Nelson, Otten, Perry, Peterson, Fischke, Reed, Roll, Souter, Shanefish, Smith, Vilhauer, Voigt, Voida, Whip, Zickmund, Blanc votes no. Mr. President, we have 19 yeas, 15 nays, 1 excused.
So the motion to amend carries. Further remarks on Senate Bill 208 as amended? Senator Dybert.
Thank you, Mr. President. I look around the room and I see maybe 2 people that have ever been on a Board of Adjustment for appeals. And if you've ever done that, you understand the process. There can be 3 steps to it. First step is with the local board. Second is to appeal to the state, and the third is to the court. You don't see this abused very often because you have that 3-step process. I support the bill because it's fair to the people that are appealing and the counties or the bodies that have made the initial assessment. So I think this is a good bill in its form, and I ask you to vote yes.
Thank you. Further remarks on Senate Bill 208? Senator Pischke.
Thank you, Mr. President. Well, I supported the bill in this previous form, but I guess I don't know if I can at this point. I would draw your attention. I think there's some questions to the Fourth Amendment here now. If you should have the right to say no if you don't want somebody to come on your property. You know, we've been a strong body of supporting private property rights, and I'd have to ask a lot of questions before I can support this language because I think the Fourth Amendment is in jeopardy here. So I'm going to oppose the bill for those reasons.
Thank you. Further remarks on Senate Bill 208? Senator Jensen.
Thank you. I agree with the good senator from Minnehaha County. In Lincoln County, we received notices in our mailbox, attached to our front door, every house in Lincoln County, that they can come on our property without our permission. They even claim they can come into your home. And if you don't let them in, you could be, well, you'd be in trouble. We received those notices, so I can't support the bill the way it is now because I know I probably still have it at home. I can show it to you, the notice that says, we can come into your home. And that's not right. So thank you.
Thank you for the remarks on Senate Bill 208. Senator Smith.
Well, thank you, Mr. President. Correct me if I'm wrong here, but the question, I guess, is for the prime. We're not saying that anybody can come on your property anytime. We're only saying that if you want this looked at by the court, they have to have the ability to evaluate the property. Am I correct?
Senator Smith, are you asking the sponsor a
Yeah,
question?
I'm sorry. Yeah, question.
Yes. Would you like to respond?
I would love to. Yes, this bill does not change what the laws already are about whether or not someone can come onto your property or come into your home. Now, if there are county equalization offices out there trying to use their power to get into your home and you don't want them to come into your home, the bill that you're voting on today does not change that, folks. And as a constitutional law attorney who works with the Fourth Amendment all the time, I wouldn't bring a bill that would violate that. In fact, I voted on the property rights bills that have come before this body. So I'm really frustrated that this bill is turning into something that it's not. And I guess to answer your question more specifically, the only time that this would even become a problem is if somebody was abusing the process and saying, I want attorney's fees for appealing something that they've purposely not allowed someone to come into their property, a locked gate, or someone coming to look at your property, to measure something on your property, and they can't come into your home if you say no unless they get a judge order. That's all due process, that's all in the law. This bill does not change that, folks. Eye on the ball.
Further remarks, Senator Smith.
I thank the prime sponsor for that response. It's quite clear to me. Thank you.
Thank you. Further remarks on Senate Bill 208, Senator Reed.
Thank you, Mr. President. Well, I am somebody that sat through a Board of Appeals several times during my time in local government. And I remember specifically times where we were going through the appeal and the assessor was not allowed on the property. And they knew there's nothing they could do about it. And then when they came to the Board of Appeal and started saying the things that they disagreed with and said, well, then we need to come in and check your house, then they let them in. So that's in law right now. And I'm hoping, I mean, I know it was followed properly, you know, when I was in local government, but what happened to Minnehaha sounds like their issue. And I don't think we should be putting that issue onto this bill. So I'd ask for your support.
Thank you. Further remarks on Senate Bill 208, Senator Peterson.
Mr. President, would it be appropriate to move Amendment F at this time?
Are you moving Amendment F, or are you asking me?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, if that's appropriate, yes.
Yes. Has it been distributed or posted?
It's posted.
All right. Senator Peterson is moving Amendment F, and there was a second. Remarks on that amendment.
Thank you, Mr. President. All that amendment does is just deletes that last section, Section 3, which is the section that I have the question on, which is the language of hinder. What does hinder mean? And so I think that we might think it means something like a locked gate, and but yet it has been misinterpreted and abused by certain assessors and directors of equalization. And so I think if we just take that whole section out, I can support the bill. Thank you.
Thank you. So further remarks on Senator Peterson's motion to amend, which is 208F. Remarks on the amendment, Senator Hulse.
Thank you, Mr. President. Well, I would say I would really appreciate if the members of this body would be respectful of the process that went into putting this bill into place. I deferred this bill the last couple of days because I've been in negotiations and conversations with the county representatives, the lobbyists, the State's Attorneys Association. I just got off the phone confirming the law with a Board of Equalization officer to confirm that I was correct in what I just answered the senator from Minnehaha's question. The reason why this language was put in was actually so that we could add the section for the less than 20% may for taxpayers who own, more expensive homes, oftentimes in the Black Hills, which is the area that I represent, so that those folks can also get attorney's fees. Because before this amendment, they weren't going to allow attorney's fees because it was an issue. So, I've been negotiating this bill for several days now, and I think it's disrespectful in the 11th hour after negotiating this amendment to get it to a place that could get through this body to put an amendment on. So I would respectfully ask to oppose the amendment. Thank you.
Thank you. Further remarks on the motion to amend? Senator Reed.
Thank you, Mr. President. I'd like to invoke 517.
He has moved to invoke Rule 517. Is he supported? He is supported. Rule 517, when there is a pending amendment, if he is supported, which he was, means that the bill will be deferred for the day and we'll take it up again tomorrow.
Okay, moving on to Senate Bill 218, an act to provide for the establishment of charter schools.
Senate Bill 218, having had its second reading, is up for consideration and final passage. Are there any remarks? Senator Nelson.
Thank you, Mr. President. I'd like to move an amendment 218C.
Amendment 218C has been moved and seconded, and it has been distributed or posted.
Yes, it has. Yes.
And would you like to speak to the amendment at this time?
Sure, I would like to speak to that. Yeah, what it does, it just clarifies that it gives priorities on tribal lands to those schools that are teaching the essentials of learning or essentials. Okay, yes, what she said. And again, I'm Norwegian, I don't say those words. And then also too, at the end of it, also just clarifies the fee that will be charged to do the administrative work, just making sure legal-wise that is clarified and where that money will go.
All right, further remarks on Senator Nelson's motion to amend 218C? Further remarks? Seeing none, this is a voice vote. Those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, nay. That carries. We are back on the bill then. Further remarks on Senate Bill 218. Senator Nelson.
Thank you, Mr. President. Members of the Senate, I am pleased to present SB 218, legislation that will establish public charter schools in South Dakota. I support expanding educational options for families. Charter schools are public, accessible to everyone, and are committed to results. Offering choices helps develop stronger students and opens up more opportunities. Public charter schools are not a newfangled, untested concept. For 30 years, public charter schools have been an important part of America's public education system. South Dakota is one of only 3 states without a public charter school law. The time is right, and now is the time to change that. I would like to summarize the main components of SB 218. First, the bill defines charter school as a public school operated by a nonprofit organization and authorized by either a school board or the South Dakota Department of Education. The application process is detailed, rigorous, and complete, ensuring that only high-quality public charter schools are allowed to open. The Department of Education is tasked with promulgating rules, templates, timelines, and evaluation rubrics. Second, the bill outlines a rigorous application process that requires detailed plans for academics, operations, and finances, along with evidence of community support. Public charter schools don't suddenly pop up overnight and must adhere to the same academic standards, assessment requirements, special education obligations, and student rights and safety laws as traditional public schools. Third, this legislation establishes rigorous standards and accountability requirements, and failure to meet them places a school at risk for closure. Initial operating contracts last for 5 years, after which schools are evaluated based upon student proficiency, progress in closing achievement gaps, post-secondary readiness, achievement of mission-specific goals, financial performance, and overall sustainability. Fourth, admission to a public charter school must be open to all students, subject only to capacity. If demand exceeds capacity, a random lottery is used. Academic status, gender, income, race, religion, or special education status may not be used. Fifth, public charter schools would be funded in the same manner as traditional public schools, receiving roughly the same per pupil funding. Just like open enrollment, funds would follow the student to the public school they attend. Every child, regardless of background or circumstance, deserves a learning environment that recognizes their individuality and supports them in reaching their fullest potential. In closing, here are 3 reasons I'm most excited about public charter schools in South Dakota. 1, they are adaptable and designed to empower communities to operate schools aligned with local priorities. Second, they strengthen public education overall by raising accountability and expectations and improving student outcomes across all educational settings. Third, and perhaps most importantly, they support students with the greatest needs. One size does not fit all. Charter schools can provide the flexibility needed to meet diverse needs in today's society. Public charter schools do not replace traditional public education. Rather, they expand the range of options available to families. They are one more tool in the toolbox for all South Dakota families, ensuring all children can learn, grow, and succeed. Please vote yes on SB 218. Thank you.
Thank you. Further remarks on Senate Bill 218? Further remarks? Senator Souter.
Thank you, Mr. President. I'm on the Senate Education Committee when we heard this, and while I don't necessarily totally disagree with the premise of it, this is not something that we need in our South Dakota schools. Number one, what really bothers me about this bill is that they're using the public school as their umbrella, but yet they're having nonprofits go underneath that to provide the some of the funding. Although our funding will still go toward that, they will not utilize our school board. They'll have their own deciding board. That would be like if I want to go drive a car, but I don't have a license, but I'm going to borrow your license, and that should be okay. That's not okay, and that's what this is. It further divides up our public schools. We're struggling right now to keep them all together. Can our public schools address these situations for some of these students? Absolutely, I believe they should. I believe they should. One example was gifted children. Yes, we do need to do something for our gifted children instead of just saying, hey, you know, go to the next grade level in your math book. When you're a second grader, do 4th grade math. That's not fair to that child either. But I don't think it's fair to the whole district, to the whole all the children, and to the state if we, you know, have a little group here and a little group there. Also, in a public school, we have to be certified. I have to be a certified teacher. We have to have certified certified administrators. In these schools, you do not. The 75% of the educators do not have to be certified. The administrators do not have to be certified. There's a lot of problems with this, and I don't know how many emails you've gotten on this, but I've heard from my district, which has almost 10% of the schools in the state, and they are absolutely against this, and I think we should be too. I appreciate the good senator for bringing this, but this is not an answer to a problem in our state education. Thank you, and please vote no.
Thank you. Further remarks on Senate Bill 218, Senator Wipf.
Thank you, Mr. President. I am going to rise in opposition to this. To my eye, this bill attempts to set up a framework for the formation of a parallel public school system. And I actually really appreciate that there's a lot of accountability standards and things like that. It looks like about 90% similar to a public school, and then it leaves maybe 10% for flexibility. I forget the exact words that the Prime used, but there's always going to be something slightly different. That's the whole premise of a charter school, is that they're going to do something unique. Otherwise, there's really no point. It's purely duplicative. And I'm glad to hear that there's other states where this has worked. But they're not governed by our Constitution. I didn't take an oath to uphold their constitutions. And in Article 8 of our Constitution, the first thing it says about education is that we must provide a uniform system of public schools. Now, you have a handout from the proponents on this. It was prepared by Representative May, and it tries to come up with a definition for uniform. Toward the bottom of that, it says, uniform means publicly accountable and accessible. Now, I believe in government that is accessible to the public and accountable to the public, but if I put up campaign signs that said, Brandon Wipf is in charge, or is in favor of uniform government, 0 of my constituents would have a clue what I meant by that. I think this definition, with respect to familial relation, I don't think it's a very accurate definition. When uniform is used as an adjective, well, I couldn't find any dictionary that agreed with this. When uniform is used as an adjective, it means unchanging in form, quality, quantity, etc., or regular, or identical, alike, or like. That's it. Nothing similar to the definition that's being presented by the proponents here. We have some former military people in the body here, and I'm just wondering, was 90% good enough on the uniform, and you were allowed 10% flexibility? 95%? Not so. I have this silly idea that uniform means uniform. Mr. President, I'm struck by the fact that yesterday, the Supreme Court came down with a unanimous decision that said the majority of this body violated your constitutional rights to vote in the event of a tie. How many of them will compound those transgressions today?
I was really okay with it. Senator Carley.
A question for the Prime.
State your question.
Yeah, I was curious if a charter school got half the students from one county and half from the other, would the funding follow the student?
Senator Nelson, you wish to respond to that question?
Yes, I sure will. It's no different than what we have right now with open enrollment. You know, when a student leaves a district to open enroll to another district, the state funding follows that student to that new school that they're going to. And that's what this charter schools, that's what they are going, that's what will be utilized, is just like open enrollment. Capital outlay, they can't, the charter school cannot do a bond for capital improvements or anything like that. That's retained to the local school district. So the only funding is what follows the kid, like an open enrollment.
Thank you. Did you have further remarks, Senator Carley? No. Further remarks on Senate Bill 218. Senator Smith.
Well, thank you very much, Mr. President, and thanks for indulging me, body. On the surface, if we were flush with cash in our state and fully supported public education like I believe we should, and totally lived up to what we should be doing, I would probably say we should probably look at doing this. But right now, we don't do that. Right now, we're struggling across our state. We're struggling right now to even come up with our obligation per law to what we're supposed to do to fund education in the state. And then we get our accounts and we hear all about that, the different way we can count our students and how many people are in our district, but we're gonna pull students out of our classrooms, change our count numbers lower, lose teachers then, that means, at your already there struggling public school. 4 options for the option of perhaps going to a charter. Well, let me tell you, the people that are thinking they're going to get school choice because of this, I can't tell you for certain But there's only some areas of the state that can support charter schools. And in the school district that I used to work for, they've done creative things to do exactly what some of these charter schools want to do. Public schools can already do this. But it takes a school board and a staff and all those things that are looking forward. My kids went to an A+ school within the Sioux Falls School District. An A+ school integrates the arts into everything that they do. It's an enhanced curriculum that they added dance and they added theater to their specials. They also incorporated 9 learning styles throughout the entire curriculum because the state gives us standards that we have to meet, but the schools and the school board in your district get to pick the curriculum and how that's taught. The flexibility is there. Now, if your school district is refusing to allow for creative solutions to problems that exist, work with your school board. Put pressure on them. Say, we can do this different. We can do this better. The systems are already in place to do it. We do not need to open this up. We do not need to open this up to then take funding away from our already underfunded public schools. I'd ask that you resist this. The intentions are good, but the consequences of this would be bad. Thank you.
Further remarks, Senator Perry.
Thank you, Mr. President. This is really a tough one. Change is important. Choice is important. Clarity is important. In my area of the state, we have the Aberdeen Public School System, and I listened to several different people about this. And it's one of those things where a person could go any direction and be right. But we have 4 systems in Aberdeen that are working very well. And the problems are this could divert funding. It could be less accountable. It could be a duplication of what we're doing now, and there could be some inefficiencies. And then you get into local control. Who really should have local control? And there could be some uneven student access. Now, I said all those things. I'm not against this, but I do know this, that in my area, the schools should decide what the schools do because they've been doing a really good job, and we want to continue to support them. So I'll be a no on this, and the reason I'll be a no on this is because my school system has been a yes for students. They have done the job for our students. Thank you.
Thank you. Further remarks on Senate Bill 218, Senator Jensen.
Thank you, Mr. President. I want to thank the good senator from Minnehaha County because he answered the question I was going to ask of the prime sponsor. We have the A+ schools. So we already are not providing uniform education. Those schools are different than the other schools. So if we look at this as a constitutional issue, we're already then violating the Constitution. I think this is just a matter of choice, and that's really what it comes down to. So I'll be supporting this. Thank you.
Thank you. Further remarks, Senator Shane Fish.
Thank you, Mr. President. I'm thinking that if this bill does pass, I would presume we're finally not going to hear the words consolidation anymore. Because if you're concerned about having too many schools, I mean, it might not be a lot of schools, but if the bill passes, I presume the result would be more, at least. And I got to say, I really have the most respect for the sponsor and the proponents of this bill. I've had some very good discussions leading up to the committee, and we did have a very good committee hearing on this. And my concerns are I mean, people know I appreciate flexibility when it comes to education, but we'd be having one set that would have flexibility. Well, the public schools have lost a lot of flexibility over the years. We're still going to have the teacher accountability measures, some of the changes that were made in the Blue Ribbon Task Force. So if some schools lose some of their students, their obligations with the teacher accountability is still there. Nothing in this changes that, so they're going to have to be paying the same amount of money with less funds, probably leading to opt-outs and higher property taxes, which we know that's a big thing right now. Also, it used to be that you had the 2-year averaging to kind of put somewhat of a safeguard to schools when they were losing students. That went away multiple years ago in an effort by the good senator from Rapid City to bring that back was not successful. So with that, and for those reasons, I'm going to ask you to resist the bill today. Thank you.
Thank you. Further remarks on Senate Bill 218? Senator Voigt.
Thank you for your patience. Uniformity. Currently, in terms of uniformity, we have public schools, we have parochial schools, we have home schools, we have private schools, we have magnet schools, we have online schools, we have synchronous delivery systems, we have asynchronous delivery systems. Bottom line is, where do these kids end up? They should be where the responsibility is. That's with the parent. That's with the parent. We are a public entity which does not pigeonhole our kids in terms of what that delivery model is going to be because of the system. If it's public, parent needs to make that decision. It's for the welfare of that student in terms of how that student's going to be able to accomplish what the expectations are in terms basically of the foundation of education and performance. A reference was made to uniformity in terms of military dress. I can tell you that uniformity dress in the military doesn't look alike for every soldier. It looks different in terms of what needs to take place to accomplish the mission. When I visited with my staff every fall, whether it was middle school or high school, for 20 years, got in that lunchroom the first day, they all sat down and they talked about that golf score this summer or watching our grandkids play ball. I'd tell them, hey, you need to sit down and be quiet, kind of like the way it is right now. What we have before us is not junk. We don't treat it like junk. If I see anything that demonstrates pulling kids in one direction or another or identifying them for any reason, we're going to have an issue. These kids are a gift to us. We will treat them like that. If a decision is made by those kids who have been brought into this world by their parents that we're not getting it done, they need to make a decision and take them elsewhere. That's what the bottom line is about here. It's about a parent engaging in the welfare of their kids. I had conducted many school evenings, parent-teacher conferences. Anybody ever heard of those? In terms of parents participating. There's a disconnection there. There's a disconnection. We need to reconnect that responsibility to those parents. And we shouldn't discriminate based on the vehicle. It is a responsibility of that parent to make that decision. Thank you.
Thank you. Further remarks on Senate Bill 218, Senator Davis.
Thank you, Mr. President. Well, I couldn't agree more. We should really have parents involved in education, and they should be parents, absolutely. And I think we've done a great job in the state of providing school choice and providing parental choice. We have public schools, we have private schools, we have magnet schools, we have alternative instruction, and we have micro schools. There's a lot of opportunities, a lot of choice for parents to make the decisions that are best for their kids. This bill is asking public dollars to go elsewhere and wants to play in a new set of rules. Public dollars should mean public accountability, public transparency. When you don't like how your public dollars are being used at the public school, you know what you get to do? You get to go to the school board and you get to hire and fire those school board members at the ballot box. And if you don't like what they're doing, you should take out a petition and run for the school board yourself. In this bill, in this system, that's not a possibility. You don't get a choice in how those public dollars are being used. They hire their own, an executive board picks their own people, and your public dollars get to be used at their discretion. You don't get to hire or fire those people through the democracy of the ballot box like we do everything else. Please vote no. Public dollars means public accountability.
Thank you. For the remarks on Senate Bill 218, Senator Blanc.
Thank you, Mr. President. A comment and then a question for the Prime. Comment is that my mother was a public school teacher, elementary school. My grandmother was a public school teacher. I was a product of public schools, and I want to see our children succeed, whatever that avenue might be. My question for the Prime is, what are the scholastic test score results of a charter school versus a traditional public school?
Senator Nelson, would you care to respond to that question?
Yes, I sure will. I have not sat down and looked myself. I've been told that they are higher. But the thing about it is you have to remember, charter schools are held accountable. They have to show improvement. They have to show closing the learning gap. They have to show that what they are doing and the dollars that they receive, the little bit of dollars they receive, they are using it to the maximum and producing results. Because if they don't, they're shut down, plain and simple.
Thank you. Further remarks, Senator Blanc?
Thank you, Mr. President. Just a reminder, I heard it mentioned just a few minutes earlier that we're talking about the spending of public dollars, and I think that it's probably wise that we remember that those public dollars come from private citizens. They come from the taxpayers. We spent a good portion of our floor time yesterday talking about what is in the best interest of the child. What's in the best? Is that really what we're concerned with? Are we really wanting to see what's best for our kids? I think that should be the answer. So this bill, all it does is provide parents with a choice, and why don't we just leave it to the free market to bear out the results? I encourage you to vote yes on Senate Bill 218.
Thank you. Further remarks on Senate Bill 218. Senator Melhoff?
Yes, I'd like to defer my time to the prime sponsor.
All right. Senator Nelson, in closing.
Thank you, Mr. President. Just a couple things talking about here. The good senator from Aberdeen, I am so thankful that the people in Aberdeen like the options that they have. And the thing about it is when you have a community that likes the options that they have, a charter school will not come up, will not exist. Because there has to be support, there has to be interest. Because if you look at the application process from other states, it is a big, big, huge binder. This is not a simple process. And so it just shows you that there has to be a need. There's got to be some people with passion and a desire to have something better for their children. And so I'm thankful that there are communities that the people love their public school. And I think if you were to ask, yeah, there's a lot of South Dakotans who love their public school. The other thing I want to talk about is when you talk about choice, yes, there are choices, but there's only one that doesn't require some type of payment. And that's the thing about charter schools. They're open to everybody. They're free to the student. There's no tuition. And that's the key. As an administrator for years, you know, I would tell families, don't worry about money, don't worry about money. We got money, we can help you. And they would not attend because they were too proud. And so a charter school enables a family, and especially lower income families or families that are struggling, the option to get their kids to somewhere better or something that they desire. The other thing I just want to touch on is we talk about struggling schools, we talk about teachers, we talk about money. The thing I don't hear from so many of you, what about the kids? That's what charter schools are for. They're for kids that need a different environment. They need different instruction, and don't they deserve that? Don't kids deserve to have the environment that's best for their learning so that they can succeed, that they can grow and become successful citizens? The reason why we have flexibility in charter schools is exactly for that. We are dealing with kids that have unique needs. And we need that flexibility in teachers, in administration, to make sure that we can meet the needs of the kids who are enrolled. Again, charter schools do not discriminate. They're just like public schools. They take everyone who comes to their door and provides the best education they can for the amount of dollars that they receive. I strongly, again, give options, give choices to students. And again, where do I see this, the greatest need? It's on our tribal lands. The greatest need is on our tribal lands for charter schools. Let's give that to them. Thank you.
Thank you. Seeing no further remarks, the question before the Senate is final passage of Senate Bill 218. When your name is called, those in favor vote aye, those opposed nay. The Secretary will call the roll.
Senators Beal excused, Blanc, Carly, Crabtree, Davis, Dibert, Duhamel, Foster, Grove, Hone, Howard, Hulse, Jensen, Carr, Colbeck, Lapke, Larson, Marty, Melhoff, Ms. Skimmons, Nelson, Otten, Perry, Peterson, Pischke, Reed, Roll, Souter, Shanefish, Smith, Vilhauer, Voigt, Voida, Whip, Sickman, Pischke, Mr. President, we have 17 yeas and 17 nays, with one excused.
So the bill having failed to receive an affirmative vote of a majority of the members elect, the President declares the bill lost. Senator Nelson's intent to reconsider has been noted. Before we move on, we have a couple of personal privileges. I'm going to start with one myself. We have a guest here in the gallery. If you would stand, sir. Standing before you, and you might not recognize him because he's on the radio, but this is Paul Allen, the voice of the Minnesota Vikings, and he will be, no applause in the Senate, that's against the rules. He is the voice of the Minnesota Vikings, and he will be speaking and answering questions tonight at Chamber Day, South Dakota Chamber Day at the Ramkota. So you can go hear from him there. I'm sure that will be well worth your time. So let's welcome him to the Senate. Senator Dibert.
Thank you, Mr. President. Personal privilege, please.
Granted.
I actually have two. The first one is Go Packers. The second one is, when I name each one of these groups, I hope they stand. We have Black Hills State University with President Steve Elliott. We have Heather Giffrow, who is the Executive Director of the Spearfish Chamber of Commerce. and we have Misty Codwell with Visit Spearfish. So America's hometown, Senator from Madison, is in the room, and please welcome them and give them applause.
Welcome to the Senate. Senator Davis.
Personal privilege.
Granted.
Thank you. Well, I don't know if Mr. Allen's still in the gallery, but I just want to rival my seatmate and say, Skol Vikings. All right, but back to this privilege here. Up in the gallery today is a group called TAL, which is Tomorrow's Ag Leaders. And they're a leadership group, a professional development group that's affiliated with the South Dakota Agribusiness Association. And so they're up here today doing professional development, learning about advocacy, learning about our process, and just appreciate all the good work that they do to advocate for our state's #1 industry, agriculture. So please help me welcome them to our South Dakota Senate.
Welcome. Stand up. Who was that? Senator Dybert.
Thank you, Mr. President. Personal privilege.
Granted.
Thank you. I meant for the chamber members and board members to stand, as well as the Visit Spearfish board members and members. So since they didn't stand, I better correct this. So thank you for being here.
Thank you. Let's give him another round of applause. Senator Nelson.
Mr. President, personal privilege.
Granted.
I have some great dear friends here that I would like to have them introduce themselves, if that's okay.
My name is Anaya Weston.
So welcome them.
Welcome.
Senate Bill 175, an act to require that an individual provide proof of citizenship when registering to vote and to declare an emergency.
Senate Bill 175, having had its second reading, is up for consideration and final passage. Are there any remarks? Senator Carley.
Thank you, Mr. President. Would like to move Amendment 175D.
Amendment 175D has been moved and seconded, and it has been distributed. Would you like to speak to the amendment at this time?
Yes, thank you. This small amendment changes a couple words just to allow, if you move within a city, not just a county, but if you move county or city, if you're a South Dakota person that's already registered, that you don't have to reprove the citizenship. So I'd love your support. That was from the SOS, working with them to come up with this.
All right, further remarks on the Carley motion to amend? In that case, this is a voice vote. Those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, nay. That motion carries. All right, back on the bill. Further remarks on Senate Bill 175, Senator Carley.
Thank you, Mr. President. Again, we're voting on the idea of we need to prove citizenship to register to vote. We all voted on citizenship last year. This is just solidifying that so that we make sure we have that proof of registering. I'll mention incidentally, just a couple days ago, our U.S. Senator Mike Rounds was here near the Capitol, and he was updating us on nationally. They're working on the SAVE Act. That passed out of Congress, and it's now in his hands with Senator Thune as well, and they're expecting to do that and help do the same thing on the federal level. So love your support to make sure we do that in South Dakota law, align it with DPS as well, where they check for citizenship as well. So thank you.
Thank you. Further remarks on Senate Bill 175. Senator Dybert.
Thank you, Mr. President. I stand in opposition of one part of this bill, and that is Section 2, Item 1. It disenfranchises all voters in general local elections that have a mailbox rather than a house. It gives them a federal ballot only. So I've learned this year on the Senate that you can tell stories because nobody's going to cut your time off, so I'm going to tell a story.
I will eventually.
I have an older brother that was born in South Dakota, grew up in South Dakota, went and served in the Vietnam War, came back and was in South Dakota for 30 more years. Him and his wife retired, and they decided to RV. So he has a mailbox at one of the mailbox places where he gets an absentee ballot sent to him, and he votes. And I hope him and his wife both vote for me, but I'm not sure. But now he will not be able to vote in the local election, which has been part of his life, his entire life. So for that reason, I do not like the language in that section. I'll be voting no.
Thank you. Further remarks on Senate Bill 175? Further remarks? Seeing none, Senator Crowley, do you have anything in closing?
Thank you, Mr. President. Yeah, I'll just mention this doesn't change anything as far as what we call PMB registered voters. In fact, that was discussed quite extensively last year. And in fact, the law that was passed last year was to give them that federal ballot. And so that has been going well. The SOS has been implementing that. And this doesn't change this at all. This bill is specifically about registering to vote. And when you register, you need to show proof of citizenship. So it doesn't have anything to do with the people who already registered that already are getting those ballots. So proof of citizenship is needed. I hope we support this and put it in place so that we can have it in for this upcoming primary. Thank you.
Thank you. Seeing no further remarks, the question before the Senate is final passage of Senate Bill 175. Because of the emergency clause, this requires a 2/3 majority vote. When your name is called, those in favor vote aye, those opposed nay. The Secretary will call the roll.
Senators Beal excused, Blanc, Carly, Crabtree, Davis, Dibert, Duhamel, Foster, Grove, Hone, Howard, Hulse, Jensen, Carr, Colbeck, Lapke, Larson, Marty, Melhoff, Ms. Skimmons, Nelson, Otten, Perry, Peterson, Pischke, Reed, Roll, Souter, Shanefish, Smith, Vilhauer, Voigt, Voida, Whip, Zickmund, Grove. Mr. President, we have 28 yeas, 6 nays, 1 excused.
So Senate Bill 175, having received an affirmative vote of a 2/3 majority of the members elect, the President declares the bill passed. Are there any questions on the title? Seeing none, it's deemed correct. Second reading of House bills.
House Bill 1018, an act to amend the reversion date for monies appropriated to the Department of Education to improve and renovate the Cultural Heritage Center.
House Bill 1018, having had its second reading, is up for consideration and final passage. Are there any remarks? Senator Zickmund.
Thank you, Mr. President. Well, I got to get mine. And you football fans, go Bears. Out of order. This 1018 is brought to us by the Appropriations Committee. The Appropriations Committee approved it 8-0. Let me give you just a little background, and then I'll take you through why you should vote for it. In 2022, the legislature unanimously passed House Bill 1047, a special appropriation of $8.8 million and the authority to spend up to $3.3 million in other funds, which is private donations, on museum exhibits. In 2025, there was an additional $1.5 million in tourism funds to help with the completion of the museum general construction. The appropriated $8.8 million has been spent on Cultural Heritage Center renovations, and those renovations are now completed. And what does this bill do? It extends the date that monies or other funds, which are going to be other funds that have been given, can be expended on the final phase of the CHC. It gives the Department of Education the authority to expend private funds through June 30th, 2028. Those private dollars are going toward the exhibits in the museum. This is why you should support it. It ensures the CHC project is finished without additional state funding. You heard that right, with no additional state funding. And if not approved, the Department of Education will not have the authority to expend the privately raised funds. The project is anticipated to be finished by the end of winter 1926-27. Those of you that haven't been up to that Cultural Heritage Center, and I told the pages the same thing, and the interns now the same thing, you need to get up there and see that. That is truly something to see. You got a lot of things to see inside, the way that it was built. I was here when we built that Cultural Heritage Center, and it was something to see. Brought out a lot of snakes, but it was something else to see. And you need to get up there and see that Cultural Heritage Center if you haven't seen it. Thank you, Mr. Chair. I encourage your support.
Thank you. Further remarks on House Bill 1018? Seeing no further remarks, the question before the Senate is final passage of House Bill 1018. When your name is called, those in favor vote aye, those opposed nay. The Secretary will call the roll.
Senators Beal excused, Blanc, Carley, Crabtree, Davis, Dybert, Duhamel, Foster, Grove, Hone, Howard, Pulse, Jensen, Carr, Colbeck, Lapke, Larson, Marty, Melhoff, Ms. Skimmons, Nelson, Otten, Perry, Peterson, Pischke, Reed, Roll, Souter, Shanefish, Smith, Vilhauer, Voigt, Voida, Whip, Zickman. Mr. President, we have 34 yeas, 1 excused.
So House Bill 1018 having received an affirmative vote of a majority of the members elect, the President declares the bill passed. Are there any questions on the title? Seeing none, it's deemed correct.
House Bill 1227, an act to increase the annual fee required of an owner of an electric motor vehicle.
House Bill 1227, having had its second reading, is up for consideration and final passage. Are there any remarks? Senator Colbeck.
Thank you. Yes, today I rise in support of Senate Bill 1227. A little bit of history here. The legislation came about when EVs were new to the market, and the realization that EVs will not pay the 28 cents per gallon in fuel tax. The legislature at the time proposed around $200 annually. The math on that bill comes to about 12,000 miles per year, and that's kind of a national average, not a South Dakota average. Divided by 15 miles per gallon is 800 gallons annually. That number times 28 cents in federal and state gas tax is about $224 a year. The argument was made that an electric car does not do that and would do better than a Ford F-150. So the legislature, in their infinite wisdom, decided on $50. So I'm not sure where that came from, but that's the number that we have today. So I think the number, personally, should be closer to about $130 annually, which would be 12,000 miles divided by 25 miles per gallon, or 480 gallons, times 28 cents is about $134. But representative that brought this bill did some shopping, and this is the number. $100 is the number that would eliminate all of the opposition. Anything higher would probably create opposition, so this was the deal that was struck. If a car gets about 33 miles a gallon, drives about 12,000 miles a year, the car will use about 363 gallons of gas per year times 28 cents. It's about $101.64. So that's about where we're at. A car that gets about 33 miles a gallon. We should do this now. That's why we're here, before there's 10 or 15,000 EVs. And we should also keep in mind that in South Dakota, annually, we drive about 14,900 miles per year because of our rural nature. So this does not take that into account, nor does it take the extra weight. So it's actually a pretty good deal for EV drivers still. If we look around the surrounding states, Minnesota is about $75, Nebraska is $150, North Dakota is $120, and Iowa is $130. So we're right in that balance. The proposed $100 fee aligns with the rough calculations of fair share. Based on the average gas tax continuation from traditional vehicles, the bill does not reflect hybrids. The House amended the original bill and decided that the conversation of a hybrid is for a different time. Also, it does not affect electric motorcycles. So that's where we were, that's where we are, and hopefully this is where we're going. Please vote yes, 1227.
Thank you. For the remarks on House Bill 1227. Further remarks? Seeing no further remarks, the question before the Senate is final passage of House Bill 1227. This bill requires a 2/3 majority vote because the fee is deposited into a continuously appropriated fund. When your name is called, those in favor vote aye, those opposed nay. The Secretary will call the roll.
Senators Beal excused, Blanc, Carly, Crabtree, Davis, Dibert, Duhamel, Foster, Grove, Hone, Howard, Hulse, Jensen, Carr, Colbeck, Lapke, Larson, Marty, Melhoff, Ms. Skimmons, Nelson, Otten, Perry, Peterson, Kischke, Reed, Roll, Souter, Shanefish, Smith, Vilhauer, Voigt, Voida, Whip, Zickman, Blanc, Foster. Mr. President, we have 24 yeas, 10 nays, 1 excused.
So House Bill 1227, having received an affirmative vote of a 2/3 majority of the members elect, the President declares the bill passed. Are there any questions on the title? Seeing none, it is deemed correct. At this time, I will be signing one bill. The Constitution of South Dakota requires that bills be signed in open session by the President and have their title read. And at this time, I am signing House Bill 1020, an act to increase the maximum amount allowable for the livestock ownership inspection fee and to declare an emergency. Announcements. Senator Zickman.
May I read a commemoration?
Go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. President. Well, I'm going to read this commemoration. This commemoration is in response to something that a legislator across in the House and I put together, or well, actually he put most of it together, or the CAC put it together. But anyway, it was brought to our attention that we have a real hero in the state of South Dakota, along with many others that are or we may have missed right now. This person happens to live in one of our senators, may I name Senator Sauter? No. Sauter's district up at Wilmot.
A little too late, I think.
And a little too late. Anyway, this person is a real hero. He's 100 years old. He's out in California right now, and that's the reason we couldn't bring him in here. But we do plan to take this commemoration to his hometown and with his senators and legislators from up there. So I'd like to read this. And this is real history. A legislative commemoration recognizing Captain Royce Williams for his exemplary military service and bravery in combat. Whereas Royce Williams was raised on a farm near Wilmot, South Dakota during the Great Depression, and he grew up embodying the values of hard work, courage, and leadership. And whereas Royce Williams earned a commission in the United States Navy, became a naval aviator, and was assigned assigned to fly the 49F Panther while on combat duty off the coast of North Korea in November of 1952. And whereas Lieutenant Junior Grade Williams was on combat air patrol with a group of 3 other pilots on 18 November 1952, when 7 Soviet MiG-15s approached the U.S. fleet, engaged the fighters, and whereas 3 of the pilots were ordered to return to the USS Oriskany, but the Soviet MiG-15s had already fired upon Williams, who was engaged in aerial combat for the next 35 minutes, which is believed to be the longest dogfight in U.S. naval history. And Williams shot down 4 enemy aircraft and damaged 2 others before ultimately landing his aircraft back on the deck of the USS Oriskany. And whereas the United States intercepted the Soviet Air Force's transmissions, confirming the hostile intent on the U.S. fleet, the attack, and the loss of Soviet aircraft, but due to the security classification, Lieutenant Junior Grade Williams was directed never to speak of the event, and knowledge of the event remained classified until 1990, after Williams retired with the rank of captain following a distinguished career. And whereas in December 2025, the Secretary of the Navy recommended upgrading Captain Williams' military decoration to the Medal of Honor, and the President of the United States personally called to inform Captain Royce Williams of his intent to award him the nation's highest honor for courage in the face of the enemy. And now therefore be it commemorated by the 101st Legislature of the state of South Dakota that Captain Royce Williams is recognized for his exemplary military career and bravery in combat. So finally, his age now is 100. He will be going to see the President for that award. So he is to be congratulated, and I hope, and I told our people in CHC that I hope we haven't missed too many others that we need to give recognition to. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you. Let's give him a round of applause. You know, you may have noticed when you come into the Capitol on the first floor, there's a display of the Medal of Honor winners from South Dakota. I think this one will be the 10th, if I'm not mistaken, but if you've never taken time to go read those, you really should. They're remarkable stories. Further announcements. Senator Reed.
No local government tomorrow.
Senator Lapke.
Senate Appropriations will be meeting at 7:30 for a bill hearing, and we'd like the appropriators there about 15 minutes early at 7:15 for a huddle.
Senator Peterson.
Thank you. Senate Tax will meet tomorrow morning at 10 a.m.
Senator Melhoff.
Thank you, Mr. President. Senate State Affairs, 10 a.m., room 414.
Senator Dybert.
Thank you, Mr. President. Senate Transportation, 8 o'clock, 2 bills.
Senator Jensen.
Thank you. Health and Human Services, tomorrow morning, 8 o'clock.
Anybody else?
Senator Souter moves that the Senate do now adjourn.
That has been moved and seconded. All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, nay. We are adjourned.